Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Smart podcast. Today, we're diving into the world of books and how discussing them can actually help you improve your English skills.
Well, that's a cool topic.
Yeah, it is.
What kind of stuff are we looking at today?
Well, we're going to be exploring an educational podcast called Book Talk with Sophia and James as our source material.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, Sophia and James are really enthusiastic hosts. They make learning English fun and engaging.
Yeah. I've always been fascinated by how they take something as simple as talking about books and turn it into a powerful learning tool for English language learners.
Yeah, it's a brilliant approach. It reminds me, when I was learning Spanish, I joined a book club.
Yeah.
And it really transformed my understanding of the language.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you discuss a book, you're naturally using new vocabulary.
Right.
Practicing your speaking and listening skills, and getting exposed to a wide variety of sentence structures and phrases.
Right.
It's like an immersive language learning experience, all wrapped up in a good story.
Yeah, you're so right. It's like accidentally learning. Yeah. And Sophia and James, they actually provide a really structured approach to introducing a book you love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They recommend starting with the basics. The title, the author, a quick summary, no spoilers, of course, and the genre.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah, and they use some well-known books as examples, like Harry Potter as an example of fantasy, and Pride and Prejudice is a classic romance. I feel like a lot of people have read those books.
Yeah.
So it gives you some common ground to start the conversation from.
Exactly. Building on that idea of common ground. They also recommend choosing a genre you genuinely enjoy. If you're not excited about the book, it's going to be really hard to stay motivated.
True. It's all about making the learning process enjoyable.
Exactly.
It's like when you find that perfect song, you just want to listen to it over and over again.
Yes.
And it's like finding a genre you click with. Now, once you've introduced the book, Sophia and James encourage you to go deeper. They want you to discuss the plot, the characters, and the themes of the book.
Okay.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, getting to the heart of the story.
So let's break that down a bit when it comes to the plot. They recommend using sequencing words to explain what happens in the story. So things like first, then, next, and finally help you organize your thoughts and retell the story in a clear and engaging way.
Right.
And for our listener, those sequencing words can help you in other areas of your English communication, like explaining a process at work or telling a story to a friend.
That's a good point. I think sometimes we get so focused on one area of language learning that we forget how those skills can transfer to other parts of our lives.
Exactly. Or for the characters, Sophia and James emphasize the importance of analyzing their personalities and roles in the story. It can be a really fun exercise because it encourages you to think critically about the characters' motivations, their relationships, and how they drive the plot forward.
If you're a visual learner, you can even create a character map or a timeline to visualize the relationships between the characters. That's something I do, even when I'm reading a book in English.
Yeah.
It helps me keep everything straight in my head.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the last element. Themes.
Okay.
Themes are the big ideas or messages that the author is trying to convey through the story. They can be about love, loss, courage, or any number of other topics.
Right.
Discussing themes allows you to connect with the book on a deeper level and think critically about its message.
It's like figuring out the puzzle of the story.
Yeah.
And I think this is where things get really interesting for English language learners. Because in order to talk about these deeper themes, you need to use more sophisticated vocabulary and grammar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It challenges you to express your thoughts and opinions in a more nuanced way. And speaking of opinions, Sophia and James really stress the importance of sharing your personal responses to the book.
Yes.
Encourage you to use phrases like, I think, I feel, and in my opinion.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and share your perspective.
Right.
And I love that they gave a specific example from their podcast transcript where one of the listeners does exactly that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It shows you that it's okay to have strong opinions, whether you love the book or hated it.
As you practice expressing your opinions, you'll naturally develop your critical thinking skills and become more confident in using English to articulate your thoughts. Yeah. It's a win-win now. Are you ready to dive into some even more advanced book discussion tips?
Oh, yeah. I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
Well, Sophia and James suggest some really cool techniques that can take your book discussions to the next level. One of my favorites is comparing and contrasting different books.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's like you're creating connections between different worlds.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's such a valuable exercise for language learners.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you could compare books by the same author to see how their writing style evolves.
Right.
Or you could compare books in the same genre. See how different authors approach similar themes.
Yeah.
You could even compare different characters within the same book.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, imagine comparing the hero's journey in Harry Potter to Frodo's journey in The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, wow.
You could analyze how they face challenges,
Yeah.
how they make decisions, and ultimately how they grow as characters.
That's a really interesting comparison.
Yeah.
And as you're making those comparisons, you're naturally using comparative language, say similar to, different from, on the other hand.
Right.
All very useful for expanding your vocabulary and grammatical range.
Yeah, so you're sneaking in some grammar practice while you're having this fun conversation about books.
Exactly.
I'm all about that.
Me too. Another really interesting tip they offer is exploring the historical and cultural context of a book.
Yeah. That can really add another dimension to the story.
It does. They use the example of To Kill a Mockingbird,
Oh, yeah.
which is set in the 1930s American South.
Okay.
Imagine trying to understand that story without knowing anything about the Jim Crow era or the social dynamics of that time.
Yeah, you would miss out on so much.
You will.
It would be like watching a movie with the sound off.
Yeah,
You might get the basic gist of what's happening, but you'd miss all the nuance and the depth.
exactly. And for an English language learner, understanding that historical and cultural context can help you appreciate the language choices that the author made.
Right.
You might start to notice how characters from different backgrounds speak, or how the setting influences the overall tone of the book.
Yeah, it's like you're unlocking these secret codes in the language.
Yes.
And speaking of codes, Sophia and James also talk about analyzing symbolism and motifs in literature.
Oh, yes. They use a great example, the green light in The Great Gatsby.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how that green light represents Gatsby's longing for the past and his unattainable dreams?
Yeah, it's like a visual metaphor that runs through the whole novel.
It does.
And it just adds this whole other layer of meaning to the story.
Exactly.
And there's so many other examples like that in literature.
There are.
So if you can start to recognize and analyze symbolism, it can really deepen your understanding and appreciation.
For sure.
You know, it's like having a secret decoder ring for the world of books.
I love that analogy.
And you know what else I love about Sophia and James's approach? They really encourage their listeners to share personal connections to the books that they're discussing.
Oh, I love that too.
Yeah, it makes the conversation so much more meaningful.
It does. It's like creating a bridge between the book and your own life and your own experiences.
And I think that's especially helpful for English language learners because it gives you a starting point to talk about something that you're already familiar with, even if you're still working on your vocabulary.
Yeah. It's like you're finding your voice within the story.
Yeah, and speaking of finding your voice, I was really curious to see what kinds of books people were recommending in the listener favorites segment.
Oh, me too. It was such a diverse and fascinating list.
It was.
We have Maria from Spain, who loves The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. She connected with its message of following your dreams and self-discovery.
That's a good one.
Then we have Ahmed from Egypt, who thought 1984 by George Orwell was a really thought-provoking exploration of control, freedom, and truth.
Yeah, that one always gets people talking.
It does.
And Aisha from Nigeria, she appreciates Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie for its powerful perspective on the Nigerian Civil War.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's so inspiring to see how books can spark these important conversations about history and humanity.
It is. It shows you how books connect us across cultures and borders. They give us a glimpse into different worlds and different perspectives.
Absolutely.
Now, Sophia and James don't just stop at discussing books.
Right.
They also offer some really practical advice on how to engage with books in a way that enhances your language learning.
Okay.
They have some fantastic ideas for activities that you can do on your own or with a group.
Let's talk activities.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for new ways to kind of spice up my learning routine.
Well, one that they highly recommend is joining a book club.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a great way to meet other people who share your love of reading, get different perspectives on a book, and practice your English conversation skills in a relaxed and supportive environment.
Yeah, I love book clubs.
Yeah.
It's like having a built-in group of friends to just nerd out about books with.
Exactly. And if you're feeling a bit more independent, Sophia and James also suggest writing book reviews.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it allows you to flex your writing muscles while also sharing your thoughts and opinions with the world. And there are so many online platforms these days, like Goodreads, where you can share your reviews and connect with other readers.
Right.
It's a great way to build community and get feedback on your writing.
So if you're someone who likes to express themselves through writing, that could be a really fun and rewarding activity.
Absolutely. And for the visual learners out there, Sophia and James recommend creating a visual character profile.
Ooh, I like that one.
You can draw a picture of the character or create a collage of images that represents their personality. You can even design a timeline of their journey throughout the story.
Oh, that's cool.
As you're creating that profile, you're naturally thinking about the character's traits, their motivations, and how they interact with other characters. It's another way to practice your English vocabulary and grammar.
Yeah, I love it.
And finally, they suggest doing an author study.
An author study, what's that?
Well, you choose an author you enjoy and then read several of their books. Pay close attention to their writing style, their recurring themes, and how their characters evolve across the different stories.
So you really get a sense of the author's voice.
Exactly, their craft. You start to notice their favorite vocabulary words, sentence structures, even how they write dialogue.
That's so cool. It's like you get to peek inside their brain, see how they create these amazing stories.
Exactly.
Now, I know Sophia and James also talk about how to choose the right books for your level and how to actually build a consistent reading habit. What are some of their top tips?
Well, matching books to your interests is key. You also need to consider your current language level.
Right.
Find that sweet spot
Yeah.
where you're challenged but not overwhelmed.
Yeah, I've definitely started books that were way too difficult,
I have too.
and it's so discouraging.
Yeah, you end up giving up.
Exactly.
So they recommend reading the first few pages just to get a feel for the difficulty
That's a good tip.
before you commit to the whole book.
Yeah, because if it's too hard, you're not going to enjoy it. And for those of you who are newer to reading in English, maybe starting with children's books or young adult books,
Yes.
those can be a good way to ease in.
The language is a little simpler. The chapters are shorter. It can help you build confidence.
Okay, and what about graded readers?
Graded readers are fantastic.
Yeah.
Those are books that are specifically designed for language learners.
Uh-huh.
So the vocabulary and the grammar are tailored to different levels.
It's like training wheels for reading.
Exactly.
It is. Now we know how to choose the right books. But what about actually building a reading habit? You know, making it a regular part of your routine.
That's something a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
But Sophia and James have some really helpful suggestions.
Okay, what are they?
First of all, they recommend setting a specific time each day for reading,
Okay.
even if it's just for 15 minutes.
Okay.
Make it a ritual.
Like an appointment with yourself to read.
Exactly. I love that. You should also create a comfortable reading space,
Oh, yeah.
someplace where you can relax and focus.
No distractions.
Exactly.
Maybe a comfy chair,
Yes.
a nice cup of tea.
Make it feel like a treat, not a chore.
Okay, so we've got our time set aside. We've got our comfy spot. What else?
They also recommend tracking your progress
Okay.
and rewarding yourself
I like that.
when you reach your reading goals.
It's like gamifying reading.
Exactly.
Okay. And the last tip.
Find a reading community.
Yeah.
Whether it's online or in person, connect with other book lovers, share recommendations, get support and motivation.
It's like having a cheerleading squad for your reading goals.
Exactly.
So there you have it, our deep dive into the world of books and how discussing them can really transform your English language learning journey.
If you're feeling inspired to pick up a book and start a conversation, I definitely recommend checking out Book Talk with Sophia and James.
Yeah, they give so many great tips and techniques.
They do.
And remember, the most important thing is to choose books you enjoy, set realistic goals, and celebrate your progress along the way.
As a final thought, I would encourage you to think about a book that you've always wanted to read, or a genre you've been curious to explore.
That's a great idea.
Maybe it's a classic novel, or a contemporary thriller, or a thought-provoking memoir.
Whatever it is, take that first step and dive in.
You might be surprised at what you discover
Yeah.
about the world, about yourself, and about the beauty of the English language.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of books.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel motivated to start your own reading adventure.
And remember, every book you read, every conversation you have, Every new word you learn brings you one step closer to fluency.
Happy reading, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Speak Smart podcast.